The Eagles are soaring at the right time. And Saquon Barkley has a lot to do with that. Thanks a lot, New York Giants. Kevin Oestreicher and I'll tell you all about it here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the new Locked On NFL, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with the help of our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I'm the host, the barber, Tony Wiggins, joined today by Locked On NFL expert Kevin Oestreicher. On today's episode of Locked On NFL, we're going to end up talking about the trade deadline and naming some buyers and sellers. Tell you why there's certain teams that no one expected to be any good is almost like the wild card gatekeeper in the AFC. And we're going to start at the very top talking about the soaring Philadelphia Eagles, Saquon Barkley, and their coach that's going to hold them back, according to Locked On Eagles. We'll make sure that we get to those guys. But first, we got to let you know that today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Game Time. That's right. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Reminding you also, make sure you tap in each and every day. But tomorrow, you're going to hear from Tyler Rowland, and he's going to tell you all about all the NFL action, especially anything that happened overnight. He'll give you a double dose of it. Make sure you tap into the Madman early in the morning. Our striker, we ain't gonna bury the lead, man. We just gonna get and jump right into some of these subjects. A lot of good things happened this weekend. A lot of bad things happened this weekend. Shout out to your Ravens for not losing to a bad team again. I just had to throw that in there and take a little quick jab at you, right?
Let's go.
But my team lost to a team that's soaring, the Jaguars. That's the team that I cover. They lost to the Eagles, and the Eagles weren't perfect. In fact, they almost found a way to blow the game, but we'll get to Nick Sirianni in a minute. But the thing about it is they also showed you what they can do when they depend on their stars. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, who got hurt, Devontae Smith, and mainly a bad man named Saquon Barkley.
Man, I'll tell you, this Eagles team has had to go through a lot this season. And it's so crazy because you look on both sides of the ball, Wig, and you look at that roster, and you're like, this team should have like one loss max with how much talent they have. But we obviously have been through the drama this season with them, people underperforming, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where I know that there were high expectations for that unit. And you and I talked about this too. Jalen Hurts doesn't look like the Jalen Hurts of old a little bit in some of these games. So it's like you look at sometimes, you can build a super team. You remember back when the Eagles, they signed Nnamdi Asomugha and they built that dream team up over there. And how did that go? It flopped. So you can have all the talent in the world on your roster, but it has to gel and make sense. And guys have to play with each other. And right now, I mean, look, Philly's getting wins, but they don't look like this team that like I'm picking to win the Super Bowl right now.
Yeah, and you know what? The last couple of weeks, though, we did a crossover last week, and Gino, your host, the guy who's on always, doing stuff with well, not your host, but he's doing stuff on Locked On NFL, and he's always on the squad shows. Gino told me that the last 2 weeks, Hurts has kind of looked a little bit more nimble, and he doesn't look like he was coming out there looking like Steve McNair at one point. Looked like he had body armor on, like he was 250 pounds, but that has slowed down a little bit, and their offense isn't quite as vanilla. I'll tell you what the Eagles' problem is, according to Eagle fans. You want to know who it is? It's their leader. Even when they win, no matter what this man does, they got a problem with it. And I can't say how much blame him. Listen to the guys from Locked On Eagles talk about it.
You think he can put together a game plan to beat Dan Campbell's Lions right now, who just went on the road in Green Bay and beat the brakes off of the Packers? Like, do you think when push comes to shove that Nick Sirianni is the guy?
No,
I think the talent, you left 8 to 10 points on the board tonight. The talent is there. The guys are making the plays.
The talent is right there with Detroit. It's right there with Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, anybody in the NFL. This personnel can beat anyone. They can win a Super Bowl. But the difference in those games against those teams, especially when it comes time for the playoffs, and if, God forbid, you get to a Super Bowl, It's those in-game decisions that Doug made in 2017. That's what kind of cost you a Super Bowl in 2022 when you think about Nick Sirianni's decision even to punt it on 4th and short on the 45-yard line. That's the difference when you're playing, when it's great team versus great team. And I don't trust Nick in those situations to be better than the opposing head coach. And so that's what I'm most nervous about this year.
Well, that says it right there. Normally a good team, a good talented team. Like if I were to talk to you or Chris Carter with Locked On Steelers, you guys would have confidence that your coach isn't going to be outdone by the other squad. Philadelphia fans feel that even though they're winning, that Nick Sirianni is their absolute weakness. And if you watch the game they played against Jacksonville, they were up 22-0. They should have walked out of there easily with a 14-point win. Trevor Lawrence had the ball inside their 20-yard line with about a minute and a half to go. It was first down, and he threw an interception that he probably shouldn't have thrown. I think it was first or second down, but he had more chances. And the Jaguars could have actually won the game had they scored, and it was all on Nick Sirianni. It's bad when your coach is your Achilles heel, isn't it?
It is. And look, I'm with you. I don't blame Philly fans for feeling that way whatsoever. And we had this conversation about just the way that coaches are handled in today's game. It feels like they have, longer periods of time with these coaching jobs in the palm of their hand than ever. I mean, you're dealing with it in Jacksonville right now with Doug Peterson. It's like, is he ever going to get fired at this point, even though Jacksonville is reeling? But Wig, those 4 NFC East teams heading into this past off season, only one of them actually made the move to fire their head coach in the Washington Commanders. And look what Washington's doing this season. They're at the top of the league. People want to get traded there now. Like it's a whole new world over there. And then you have Sirianni, Brian Dable, and Mike McCarthy as the other 3 coaches. You could argue that all 3 of those guys should have been gone last offseason. And now what are we seeing with those other 3 teams is some of the same issues are popping up again. They're underperforming based off of expectations. Sometimes it's just the right thing to move on when you know that maybe it's not going to work out instead of taking that risk. And for Philadelphia in particular, but all 3 of those other NFC East teams, it hasn't worked out. And I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 of those guys are gone this offseason if it doesn't pan out for them.
Me either. There is some fear, however, when I talk to fans about replacing people, they'll go, well, who are you going to get that's better? And I think from a fan perspective, I'm going to be honest with you, because some people in the media say it too. That's lazy. That's lazy because whoever is supposed to be picking is supposed to, by design, pick the right person. Now, they don't always do, but they don't go into it wondering if they're going to get the right guy or not. Right. That's like a person drafting. They're not wondering if they're going to draft her. They're paid to do it correctly. And sometimes they don't. But here's the anxiety that comes with it. I'm going to get to Ross Jackson here quickly because the news of the day was that Dennis Allen was fired yesterday. Here's Ross's take on how they have to look forward to what kind of coach they're going to get.
Are we really about to watch New Orleans Saints undergo a single coaching search, or is this going to be the first of a couple coaching searches over the next few seasons? Here are the 2 realities that can take place. The Saints can go into this offseason and bring in a head coach that they feel like is going to be the guy that's going to lead them into their next 10, 15 years of success because they're able to sell them on what the future is. That's the ideal situation. That's not always the case in the NFL. The second option is that you end up hiring a mid-level or low-tier head coach that gets you into your space where you do have something to offer, right? Get through 2025 into 2026 where you have salary cap space, get to clear your books, get to reset your books, get to reset your roster and begin your rebuild in earnest, and then bring in the head coach that you expect to be able to lead you through the rebuild and then into the golden era.
Now, that's a lot to unpack, but that is a good, solid way of thinking because maybe Doug Peterson, leaving Jacksonville into it, maybe Doug Peterson was the right coach to get us past Urban Meyer, but he's just not the coach to get us to that next spot.
Yeah, and I love how Ross laid that out because there are multiple different paths that can happen. Here's the path that I personally would take for New Orleans. I can't do it. And when Ross and I talk every time, we joke about it. Every time, every season, it seems like the Saints are $85 million bajillion gazillion dollars over the salary cap, and they just keep kicking that can down the road with guys that are coming up on 40. And you can't have that. I mean, is the long-term answer Derek Carr? Obviously not, right?
No.
It's not that. But you have guys like Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis. They just signed Alvin Kamara to an extension. They could have gotten off of that deal. Instead, they signed him to an extension to, again, kick that can down the road. And it's just like, okay, you're bringing another guy, but what's that roster going to look like in the next 3 years? And are they going to have enough firepower to even compete within the next 3? Because they're going to have to get so much money off of their books. So it's a unique situation there in New Orleans. And obviously, they've tried to compete. They've tried to win. They've tried to upgrade a quarterback since Drew Brees has left. It hasn't worked for them. I think it's going to be a long road ahead for this New Orleans Saints team.
I do too, because when you kick that can down the road, you either get tired of kicking or you run out of road to kick the can down. And now that can's going to be looking at you like, what do you want me to do? I tell you what, teams want to get it right. Somebody did get it right. Somebody on the West Coast got it right. And now the Los Angeles Chargers look like a surefire bet to make the playoffs and be a gatekeeper of the wild card spot for some of these other teams that's trying to actually make it in. We'll discuss that and those lucky Kansas City Chiefs. We'll hit all of that in just a second here as we get to segment number 2 on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. Man, you better get those tickets. And even if you don't get them early, guess what? If you download the Game Time app, you can get them late and you'll still be all right, because Game Time, they specialize in last-minute tickets, even after the event has already started. They got all-in pricing, Game Time picks, where they have a curation process that makes it easier for you to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all of that. Monster trucks, if they're doing it in a venue and they're selling tickets, Game Time has you covered. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell a redeem code for you. LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. Don't you want to be associated with someone that is the #1 sportsbook? I do, because FanDuel does me right every single time. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, rolling along here, segment 2, Locked On NFL with my man KO, Kevin Oestreicher. And we're talking about everything going on in the NFL. We were talking about coaching changes, possibility of coaching changes and all of that stuff. And there's a team that made a coaching change last year that is not regretting that decision right now, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers. And if anybody thought, I keep hearing people refer to Jim Harbaugh as a college coach, as if those years in San Francisco didn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
When he built one of the best rosters in the league. And as if the dude didn't play in the league forever, and they're referring to him as a college coach, which is just not accurate. I tell you what he is, though. He is a coach of a football team that will punch you in your face over and over and over again until they win. The Chargers are sitting there with a nice little record in the AFC West at 5-3, and I think they shocked a whole bunch of people. And right now, they'd be the second wild card in after the Baltimore Ravens, right in front of teams like Cincinnati and Denver. They're going to make it. And one of those other two teams are going to be disappointed, and Jim Harbaugh is going to be the reason. They're going to make the playoffs, Striker.
Yeah. And again, Jim Harbaugh is a guy that is a culture creator over there. And I think that, all those players are bought in. I know that, at times the offense has not looked pretty and it's been a bit of a struggle. And obviously me covering the Ravens and having experience with Greg Roman, I do understand what has been going on there at times. But, it seems like as the season has gone on, and this is a natural progression, right, Wig? I mean, it's a new coach, new system, and it's a very far stretch from what they were last year. It's just about adaptability. And early in the season, there are going to be growing pains. There are going to be struggles, but that defense is playing lights out. They have talent on that side. And, they made a decision to trade away all their receivers. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, they're gone. And, you have like guys like Ladd McConkey stepping up. And they invested in the offensive line. You have J.K. Dobbins, who I couldn't be happier for, coming off of his injury. It's over in Baltimore. He's been looking lights out. So, and then you have Justin Herbert, who's also doing a great job. I mean, this Chargers team is for real. Obviously, Kansas City is probably going to win that division, but as a wild card team, I wouldn't want to see the Chargers in the playoffs.
I wouldn't want to see them either. And because, a lot of teams around the league are actually playing the way that they're playing. I talk about this all the time on Friday with Matt Williamson. And Matt Williamson from the Peacock and Williamson podcast show. They're doing things that people think are boring. But you know what? Guess who doesn't think that stuff is boring? The teams that they're playing against doesn't think it's boring. The teams that they're playing against probably wish that those guys would just open it up and be all laissez-faire and be all loosey-goosey. But the one thing about this dude is Harbaugh is going to run a tight ship. They throw it more than you actually imagine that they throw it. The thing is though, what they do is they make their players earn the right to loosen things up. They make them earn the right to throw the ball by being efficient. And Justin Herbert right now has 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. And I think what he's doing is he is telling them, and he is creating a culture where we are not going to turn the ball over. Okay. We're going to play sound defense. We're going to give ourselves a shot. And then after that, he can find wide receivers like Quentin Johnson, who has 4 touchdowns on the year. Nobody thought that he'd be doing anything. He can find Ladd McConkey, who's having a pretty decent year for a rookie with 440 yards, and Joshua Palmer with 306. So they're getting this spread out production. They're getting good running back play from J.K. Dobbins. They can't beat the Chiefs, but I tell you what they can do, bro. They can make some noise and be that top wild card and give a team like, say, Buffalo, whoever that third seed is, that if 3 has to play, however they do the numbers, I guess that 1 gets a bye, and if 3 has to play 4, now you're talking somebody might get upset. What if they have to play Pittsburgh? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In a matchup of those 2 middling wild card teams, they can beat the Steelers, even though they lost to them already. They can beat them because they play the same type of football. Getting to the Chiefs, at the time we started, recording, the Chiefs had narrowly escaped. And I think we're getting used to saying that a lot this year. They narrowly escaped Tampa Bay, who's depleted with their wide receivers. And it was a valiant effort. I don't know what it is about the Bucs, man. They just seem to have the Chiefs number with the way that they play defense for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I mean, look, being a Ravens guy, they literally lost by a toe to Kansas City in week 1. Has been that theme over and over and over again. And I mean, look, the Chiefs are a good team, and they're going to find ways to win close games. And, there's always going to be the conversation about how the refs influence these games. And Juwan Taylor, you know him well, Wig. Juwan Taylor with the false start.
Always moving early, right?
Yeah, how he's moving and how are they going to call that or not. That's the Juwan Taylor specialty. But, I mean, this is a Chiefs team that really hasn't looked all that great, and they're undefeated. And obviously, you're starting to see it. I think the D-Hop acquisition was awesome. I think that is especially what they needed for that offense. But at the end of the day, it's been the defense over this past year and a half that's kind of carried the offense a little bit more. but the Chiefs are losing guys left and right, man. I mean, it seems like they're just to play. I mean, their plan going into the year was, all right, they're going to have Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice, and that's going to be great. Now both of them are gone, and then they're losing tight ends, they're losing corners. Like, everybody's going down, and they're still winning games. So they're going to be a tough out regardless. You can never bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Someone has to take them down eventually, right? I mean, like one of these days, but I don't know when that's going to be.
You can't even almost do it, man. Somebody's going to have to take them to the woodshed. And not if they are close. They did this in the Super Bowl against the 49ers. If they are close and they have just enough time, and go back when they played Buffalo, dude, they went down the field in 13 seconds. I mean, it's the weirdest thing, but they just have this thing in their DNA where they know how to win, and they're going to exercise it each and every time. The trade deadline is today. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, it'll be at 4:00 today. We're going to talk about some trades that have already been made and a couple of teams like, I don't know, the New York Giants that probably need to be thinking about something, and maybe even the Indianapolis Colts, since their season is, well, it depends on how the quarterback is going to play, and they haven't done a very good job at that. So we'll talk about that here as we close out here on Locked On NFL on a Tuesday in just a second. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. Never, ever feel bad about needing therapy. I'm a living witness. I've done it on several occasions, and now I even take therapy in a different way. I kind of maintain it. I check in every now and then. I don't wait until something happens that knocks me off of my square and realize I can't get back up unless I talk to someone. So I do it each and every day. But it takes a little bit of time for you to get to that point. And if you're seriously thinking about giving therapy a try, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient. It's flexible, suited to your schedule. All you got to do is just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I'll tell you what, man, let the gratitude flow and be thankful for the fact that you can spend time with your families and that you're not without hope. You are not without hope when you're trying to get your mind right. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn if you're thinking about giving therapy a try. All right, rolling along here with my man, Kevin Oestreicher. You can find him every day on Locked On Ravens. Every Tuesday, he's here with me on Locked On NFL. And all of our guests that come on every single day with Tyler Rowland and I will be featured on Locked On NFL. Make sure you tap in early in the morning with Tyler Rowland and get a double shot of NFL Espresso, and then slide by the barbershop and holler at me in the middle of the day. 2 shows, 1 day, every day. The show comes on twice. Make sure you check it out wherever you get your podcast, on our YouTube page that is Locked On NFL, or wherever you hear your podcast. All right, trade deadline. Oestreicher, we got some teams that have done some things. I proposed that the Dallas Cowboys would trade Michael Parsons and shape their future. And I think people think I was crazy when I said that yesterday to Julian Council, but I mean it. There are some teams that their season is already over. They need to realize it and go ahead and start making some moves right now.
Yeah, and I think we saw that report about a bunch of teams, particularly in the AFC, maybe holding out for this week 9 and seeing if they won or lost to figure out what direction they could go in. Then you have teams like the Dolphins who lose. You have teams like the Browns who lose. And I think that should set them on a course of getting something for their guys. Because at this point, I mean, you have 6 losses, 7 losses. I mean, is 9 if you lose 2 more games over the course of the rest of the year, is that enough to get you 8 and 9? You're not making the playoffs at 8 and 9 in this AFC. So
No.
A lot of teams, I think, are going to be sellers at this deadline, and that's good news for a lot of contenders that either want to make a move or maybe they might want to double dip. Teams that have already made moves.
Speaking of sellers, teams that lost, how about I take my time? I gotta holler at my girl Patricia Traynor up with Locked On Giants. Let her talk about the G-men and their problems, and they need to trade. I think they're trying to trade a pass rusher named Ojulari. Let's check this out.
The New York Giants' downward spiral continued Sunday with a 27-22 loss to the Washington Commanders at home. The Giants still winless at MetLife Stadium this season, and winless against the division opponents weren't bad in most of the statistical categories, but where they really fell flat was on the defense, where they failed to register the sack and had just 2 quarterback hits and 2 pass breakups all game long, thanks to a litany of mistakes, including missed tackles and blown assignments. Offensively, the Giants' passing game was at -8 net yards at halftime. The game plan being to lean into the running game, which averaged 5.3 yards per carry. Besides there also being a litany of little things that contributed to this loss, head coach Brian Daboll's insistence on following analytics was maddening. Twice he had the Giants go for a 2-point conversion, and twice they failed, leaving points on the field that, had they gone with common sense rather than analytics, might have made it a 3-point game towards the end there. But no matter, as the Giants' 100th season, which was supposed to be a year-long celebration, has been nothing short of a nightmare.
Yep, the Giants are cooked. When you start hearing Patty say stuff like it's been a nightmare, they haven't won any games. They haven't won any games in the division. They got swept by Washington. Here's my question to you. You're in Baltimore. Have y'all tapped out already when it comes to trading for people? Because I know y'all got a wide receiver. I heard y'all need a pass rusher. They got one up there that's sitting there, Azeez Ojulari, sitting there waiting on you to come get him, baby.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's the guy I want. I'm all for it. Before last week, he had 5 sacks in his last 3 games. He's still a younger player and fell in the draft a couple of years ago due to his medicals. I think he had a knee issue. I think it was a knee issue. I mean, that's a guy that should be a prime trade candidate. I mean, he's a player that I think the Giants could get a decent draft pick for.
He's
and
expendable
at this point,
because they got 2 other pass rushers, right?
Yeah, I mean they sunk a lot of capital into Brian Burns. I mean, you might as well get something back there. So, look, in my opinion, I think that Ojulari would be a great option. And look, I would love it to be Baltimore, but if it's not, I think a contender could really use him.
Yep, and I'm going to tell you somebody else that might start selling some stuff. I saw something weird yesterday. I don't want to say it's weird because it was a woman. It's just weird that the owner's daughter was on. Did you see it? I saw a picture of the owner's daughter, Ursula's daughter, and I don't think it was Photoshopped, that she was on the sideline.
No, I didn't see it. No.
She was on the sideline, watching the coach call plays up there. It could have been Photoshop. And if it was a great Photoshop. And look, y'all can celebrate and say, yeah, we got the dumb barber who saw that picture and thought it was the real deal, right? It won't be the first time I gotten caught with that. But I tell you what, they're in a pickle with their quarterback situation, because if you look at the advanced metrics and analytics over guys that have gotten benched and ever came back, it does not happen. When guys tapping themselves out of the game and their teammates like Anthony Richardson, he's a good kid, but he did something that you just cannot do. Listen to the dudes up, my man, they talking about it bad too on Locked On Coach. Check this out.
But when it's a Flacco loss like this, how am I supposed to feel? You guys somebody tell me how I'm supposed to feel. I feel tired right now. Like, that's because it's 1 a.m. and I'm old, but like,
it felt also, like Gardner Minshew games is what it felt like.
Yeah, but at least like Gardner did something. Gardner was at least kind of young, right? He was like 29. At least there was something.
At least he had a mustache and that cool hair.
Oh man, I don't know, man. It's awful. This is just terrible. Like, the Flacco thing, the only way this was going to feel decent is if he was coming out slinging it and winning like he was with the Browns last year. But when he's coming out looking like this, there's no way to feel anything. Like, I feel dead. I feel dead inside, Jake.
Them boys need some therapy, man. They might need to call better help about their season. I'm going to tell you that right now. But they got a point. The point is when a team goes all in on a top 5 draft pick, and then a year later, everybody's looking around, and you got a dude that's 71 years old and they're playing quarterback and it doesn't work. All you can do is laugh sometimes, bro. And it's not that it's just subpar quarterback play. It's just that they sold themselves that Anthony Richardson was the answer, and when he wasn't, it kind of takes the air out of yourselves and just takes your breath away, that you have to start that process all the way over again, and you're not picking very high right now in the draft.
Yeah, and I think again when you when you play a guy like Joe Flacco, obviously, you see him do what he did in Cleveland last year, and you're like, okay, could this guy maybe sneak this team into the playoffs, get back on track? He's the guy that can impact winning the most. And then you don't win, and you're like, oh, well, there's no long-term upside here. There's not really even any short-term upside here. Why don't you just play the young guy anyway? And so the Colts made it clear, hey, this is not a short-term thing we're doing here. Like, Joe is the guy, but if Joe's not winning, I mean, there's really no upside either which way. And if the Colts miss the playoffs, it's like, oh, was this really worth it in any way?
There's nowhere else to turn. And one of the worst things, I've seen it a couple of times here. I saw it with Blake Bortles. I saw it with Blaine Gabbert. I'm not there yet with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, I think he's a little bit better. But to hitch all your wagons to, okay, this is the start. And when you think you're going to be patient and ready to do it, and then they say, nope, that ain't the right one. We got to start all over again. And that's kind of what it's starting to feel like in Indy. Well, you got the right one here with Locked On NFL. And on Tuesday, my man, Ostriker will be here with us every single time. And like I said, make sure you check out Tyler Rowland early in the morning on Locked On NFL with the AM show. And then I'll be right back here, of course, on Wednesday with my man David Harrison doing the lunchtime barbershop show. KO, take care of yourself, man. Keep on winning. One of us got to be a winner. I got to have some winners on this show. I can't be on here being a loser by myself. You take care of yourself, man, and all y'all take care of yourselves, and we'll see you the next time here on Locked On NFL.